Okay. If you guys have any questions during the process, all you have to do is sort of hover your mouse like at the bottom part of the picture. What you know, picture of yourself is what you're probably seeing, and you'll see a little icon called chat. So once you click on the chat icon, you can type your question in, and we'll make sure to read it and get to it. Okay. So again, we'll start with the market stats, and then we'll get into querying. One's echoing. Right now, I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to pull up the market stats. Okay, I hope everyone can see that.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. So here we go.
Okay, so we'll start with the key neighborhoods that we serve, which include Baldwin Hills, Baldwin Vista, Ladera, View Park, and Windsor Hills. So here we see that there's been little change year over year for new listings and pending sales. The number of total sales in 2021 was 15, which is an increase of about 47%. So we definitely saw some significant growth here. Days on market also decreased by 53%. The average sales price remained relatively flat year over year. So the one thing I want to mention, really just kind of about what we're seeing in the real estate market right now is that it's very robust, it's very competitive. There's definitely more and more inventory starting to slowly come on market, but the supply still does not meet the demand. So we're consistently submitting offers on properties that are receiving multiple offers. Buyers and sellers are becoming very aggressive in terms of the price, in terms of contingencies and the terms. So it's definitely a very hot market. And I think a lot of that is being fueled still by the fact that interest rates are still really low. You know, it's never been this cheap to borrow money ever. So that's really kind of what's driving and fueling the market. And I do think that as COVID numbers decline, as hospitalizations go down, as more people get vaccinated, kids start to return to school, sellers will begin to feel safer and more comfortable putting their homes on the market. So I'm hopeful that there will be an influx of inventory as we get better control of the pandemic. Okay, so moving on to the January condo market. So here.
Oh, you got it. Okay, sorry.
So here, new listings are down by 40%. Pending sales doubled year over year from 2 to 4. And average days on market increased slightly by 14%. And average sales remained relatively flat year to year.
Okay, and now we move on to Mar Vista. And January to 21 to 20, you can see the new listings increased tremendously in Mar Vista by 40% year over year. The pending sales increased roughly about the same percentage, a little bit more. And the solds, same percentage really, 38%. So Mar Vista's on fire. What's interesting is that the average days on market went up by quite a bit. But I guess with more inventory, you know, with less inventory, it makes sense that the days on market would be shorter. There's less to choose from. Nonetheless, the price went up by about 13%. So Mar Vista is just, you know, cranking as one of the hottest markets in town. Condo wise, there's not a whole lot of condo buildings in Mar Vista. So the numbers are always low, the actual numbers, but again, new listings went up by quite a bit. They increased from 5 to 15, so 67%, same with pending. The sold listings increased by about 50%, and the average days on market stayed flat. The price did drop a little bit, about 15%. But when you have such a small sample, I don't know that it's indicative that the condo market is down 15% in Mar Vista. It's just that this is a small sampling. And then there we go, Culver City.
Okay, so moving on to Culver City. So here, new listings increased from 18 to 25. Pending sales are up by 32% and total sales are down by 18%. And the average sales price increased by 14%. So Culver City is definitely showing signs of a strong and healthy real estate market as it pertains to the single family homes. And then in the condo market, overall new listings were down by about 18%. Pending sales were pretty flat year over year with a less than 1% change. And total sales increased 44% from 10 listings to 18 listings. And average days on market increased by 15%. And the overall sales price decreased slightly. And truth be told, since the pandemic really started, I guess, in March and April of last year, we've truly seen like very little impact on the Culver City condo market. Was robust and it continues to be robust.
But in general, people are wanting houses a lot more than they're wanting.
They are.
So this is, maybe why the numbers aren't as strong as the single family home market. Culver City does have quite a few condos too. And then here we go to Santa Monica. So the single family home market, there's not a huge change. The new listings basically stayed the same. The amount of new listings, the amount of pending sales was down by about 22%. The amount of solds down by 12%, 15 to 17. And the average days on market went down quite a bit. And the purchase price, the average price for a single family home in January 2021 was $3,759,258, up from 3.3 million, so 12% difference. And condos, so condos went crazy in Santa Monica in January 2021. So the new listings are up by 32%, went from 50, and there's a lot of condos also in Santa Monica. So it went from 52 to 77. And I think that condo buyers are trying to get houses like everybody else. And a lot of condo buyers trying to move up right now. So I'm sure in Santa Monica that this is fueling the market because Monica is expensive. People have equity in their condos and they're thinking they can get into a house. Pending sales, again, up 42%, sold up 38%. And then average days on market went down. So the inventory the amount of choice went up, inventory went up, and the average days on market went down. So it shows you that people are buying condos in Santa Monica. The average sales price did go down by 9%, but again, with a lot more inventory being sold, it's not that surprising. Okay, I'm gonna get out of this and get back to okay. Is it all, does anyone, okay, we're all good. So now, Jennifer, it's your time. Does anyone? So this is Jennifer Dunbar. She's the CEO and creator really of Doorsquad. And so first, Jennifer, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your company, Doorsquad, and how you conceptualized it, how it came into being.
Sure. So I think probably most of us on the phone have moved, and we all know it is absolutely one of life's most dreaded experiences. And I personally have had an opportunity to move several times across states, interstate, but also I've been challenged with having to relocate my parents, which is daunting because it's emotionally draining. So Doorsquad was really birthed and born to relieve you of the stresses and the worries of creating and planning and executing a move. So what is Doorsquad? Doorsquad is a full service relocation concierge company. We're based here in Los Angeles, while we do support relocations across the United States as well as across the seas. And what do? We provide hands-free services to our clients, really, again, to relieve them of the stresses of a move, right? So we take care of the pre-move activities, the actual move, and the post-move activities.
Awesome.
Okay. Jennifer, how is moving during a pandemic different than pre-COVID?
Wow. Very, very different. I think most of us are living different lives, right, as a result of the pandemic. And if you're moving, one of the things you really got to think about is, who's going to be in my home. So safety is, top of that list, right? So all of the service providers that are coming into your home today, or would be coming into your home as a result of moving, would have to wear masks, right? And all of those PPE standards are informed by the CDC, and then obviously somewhat enhanced or tweaked by both federal, state, and local level. So that is a big change. Another thing, as you showed, the real estate market, demand is up, right? So demand is up. We see a lot of people selling condos, selling homes. Well, that demand is also impacting, relocation, what we're doing. It's extending the lead times that are required to be able to schedule a move, right? So most people think you can just pick up the phone and call and schedule a move in the next day, and that's just not possible because everybody's moving. People are fleeing New York, people are fleeing LA. So lead times have been impacted as well. I would say the third biggest change as a result of COVID is we're doing a lot of virtual estimates, right? And that's been challenging for some of our clients who may not be as familiar with technology, right? That they're not, digital natives. But instead of going into homes, we're really trying to mitigate exposure to our clients and to us. We're actually jumping on FaceTime or other, platforms to do our estimates virtually.
Okay. So Jennifer, can you talk a little bit about what is the difference between like just hiring a mover and hiring a relocation concierge service? And what are the pros and cons of each of those two things?
Yeah, so there's a really big difference. I think for most people, the first question you got to ask is, do I really want to be involved in this process, right? Do I know where to begin, right? What's the first step in moving? And do I have the time? Do I have the time to actually be involved? If you are do-it-yourselfer, right, you're going to figure it out. You're going to call the moving company. You're going to get a couple estimates, right? And you're going to actually be involved in managing that move yourself. If you're one of those folks who, like most of us probably on this call today, are busy, we're time starved, we may be managing multiple things in our personal and professional lives, or we simply just don't want to be bothered or stressed with moving, then you'd want to think about, hiring a relocation concierge. Why? Because we're going to do it all for you. We have access to vetted service professionals. We understand fully the entire relocation process. And again, we're going to provide you with a single point of contact. And again, I think the best part of it all is we do it all for you. You don't have to be involved. It's completely hands-free. So you have to really kind of decide where you fit, where you want to be. Do you want to manage the process, or do you want someone to do it for you?
Got it. Okay. And what safety standards should someone expect movers to follow, especially now during this pandemic?
I think that's a fantastic question, because I think most people don't think about how the pandemic has really impacted service providers and what you should expect of them. At a minimum, anyone coming into your home should have on face masks, right? Our moving partners, they're also taking it to the next level where we're sanitizing all of our equipment. We make sure that we have hand sanitizer inside of all of our trucks. Our project managers that come on site to manage your relocation will have on gloves. We'll also have on masks. We're going to ask all of our clients which restrooms we can use, so we can make sure that we isolate to one restroom, so we don't have people using the restroom, throughout the entire home. And then I think the other safety thing to think about is, if you are going to be present while the relocation is taking place, and you have children, or you have pets, or you have elderly parents in the home, you really got to think about isolating, somewhat quarantining yourself to a space in the home while there are people that are moving around and about.
Okay. And how far in advance should people be planning their moves?
I think that's the question of the day, right? It's February, and I would say our moves, our relocations are up over 100% year over year, right? And typically this is the slow time, right, of the year for moves. If you're planning a move today in the winter months, I would suggest that you reach out to your service providers within 4 weeks of your move, right? 4 weeks out. As we transition into summer and, which is really our peak season, I would encourage you to reach out to your team 8 weeks in advance. So 2 months.
Okay.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. And then does someone have to physically go into a property to provide a moving quote, or can you do that virtually?
Yeah, we can, the size of the property matters, right, in this particular case. So for a smaller property, a condo, an apartment, we can absolutely provide you that estimate virtually, right? Because we're going to ask you via FaceTime, as long as you have a smartphone, kind of help us, see what's inside the home. What do we have to pack, kind of floor to ceiling. If you have a larger home, I would say 2,500 square feet or larger, we're going to need to come on site. In that case, there's a lot more household items that need to be packed. So we want to kind of make sure we can see it so that we can fully and accurately estimate the resources that are required to move you.
Cool. Okay, and this is the question I think that everyone should be asking every day, whether they're moving or not. How do you get rid of stuff that you don't want to move?
Yeah, I love that, because some of us should be thinking about how do we get rid of the stuff now, even while we're staying in our homes, right?
I think everyone can ask that question all the time.
All the time. I think, the first thing you have to decide, and there's tons of shows doing this today, right? You've got Home Edit, you got Marie Kondo, you got a lot of people out there helping us figure out how do we rid ourselves of some of the things that are kind of weighing us down in our homes. And I would really start room by room, right? It's overwhelming to think that you can tackle it all in one day, but you take a day, say, Saturday, I'm just going to focus on the family room. And I really would encourage you to really just empty out all the cabinets in the family room, all the drawers, put everything on the floor, and really just begin to go through them, asking yourself, is this something I've used? Do I even know what this is? Do I recognize this thing? And as you're sorting through those personal items, create kind of 3 piles, right? The first pile is the things that, they mean something to me, they have value, so I'm going to keep this item. The second pile are things that have no value to you. You haven't used them. You don't even recognize it. You probably should donate it, because if it still has life, you can repurpose it and someone else may be able to enjoy it. The third pile would be something that is broken, is destroyed, or is just functionally obsolete that should probably be trashed. So you create those 3 piles. And then you've got to make sure, once you created these piles, you don't want to leave it in your home. Now you've got to dispose of them, right? So you can either, call 1-800-GOT-JUNK, right? There's a lot of service professionals out there, organizations that'll come pick up those trash items for you. Or you can identify donation partners that will receive those items for you. The tricky part is during the pandemic, most people were at home and everybody started decluttering on their own. So a lot of our nonprofit partners are actually full. So I would just suggest that you pick up the phone and give them a call first before you drive there, or before you assume that they're going to be able to come and pick up those items from your home. And then lastly, again, the items that you said, you're going to just dispose of, you're going to trash. Your trash bins are going to fill up pretty quickly. So then you would want to, identify a service provider who could come. So you could either get a dumpster or call a trash hauler to come pick up those things from your home. But again, just strategically laying out a plan where you're going to attack this room by room. Doorsquad, we can come do that for you. We can help you with decluttering as well virtually. We're doing a lot of virtual decluttering sessions, or we can come on site and physically help you by lifting and sorting through those things that are weighing you down.
Okay, that's very interesting. Can you describe a little bit, and then I have a second question that I want to ask from Marissa, but can you describe what a virtual decluttering session is like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had a client in Pacific Palisades that at the beginning of the pandemic just wanted to flee LA. They were going to Montana. So they dropped me the keys, literally just threw me the keys and said, Jennifer, we're out. We're going to drive the family to Montana, and we're going to need help decluttering. I said, no problem. So what we did essentially is we set up small organizing sessions virtually via Zoom, What that looked like is they were in Montana on their, laptop. We were in their garage. We started room by room in their garage on the other end of the FaceTime call. And we literally, we set it for 4 hours because most people can't manage more than 3 or 4 hours. It's just too much, right? We've got a lot to do, or it's just overwhelming to really, cipher through your things. But we literally took the camera, right? So for example, you have this camera, and we started in the garage. We went shelf by shelf in the garage, literally opening containers. So we opened up a container, we remove the contents, we show it to the client on the camera. They would tell us, am I keeping this item, right? So if they're keeping it, we would then put it in a pile to keep because we knew we had to pack it later so we could send it to them. We created the other pile for trash and the other pile for donation. So we're physically showing them the items as we're pulling them out. Some of them, they were surprised because they haven't seen them in years, right? And then we are creating the piles so that we can dispose of the items for them.
You have to make sure there's nothing kinky in your garage. Forgot about
Yes.
that.
We've seen it all though, Lorin. We have seen it all, trust me.
Okay, Marissa has a question, and she said, "What does Doorsquad assist in selling furniture?"
Yeah, that's a great question. We did prior to the pandemic, and we have really pivoted away from that. Why? Because a lot of our clients they struggle with the fact that they've invested large sums of money in pieces of equipment 20, 30 years ago. I had one client that spent like $40,000 on this beautiful dining room set. And I had to let her know that today, that cherry wood that you spent $40,000 on 30, 40 years ago, it's not going to command $40,000. You'd be lucky if we can get $600 or $700. And she was just so disappointed. So after years of trying to sell some items that typically just don't command the same amount of money that you've invested in them, we've pivoted away from that. Now, we do have estate sales partners, on our team. So if you really have some very unique pieces, some high value items, we will certainly work with you to get those items sold.
Thank you. So what can a mover expect to happen on moving day?
Well, movers come in kind of different tiers, right? So if you're partnering with Doorsquad and one of our movers, because we are really up-leveling the moving experience, we are going to, first of all, we're going to let you know 24 hours in advance what you can expect. And the things that you can expect is we're going to come in. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to protect your floors, right? So we're going to roll out either literally like a red carpet or a blue carpet, but we're going to protect the floors in your home. We're also going to protect the front door and all of the major doorways and thresholds, because we know that when we're moving large and bulky furniture, sometimes, we're going to either physically hit it ourselves, hit the wall or the door or the threshold, or maybe the furniture may come up in contact with that door or that floor. So we want to make sure it's protected. That's the first thing that we're going to do. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to walk throughout the entire home, and we're going to identify which rooms we are moving furniture out of. Why is that important? Because when we go to set up your home on the other end, we need to know that the living room furniture is going to the living room, or now the living room furniture may be going to the den. What was once Lorin's room may now be the guest bedroom. So it's important for us to understand which rooms we're moving the household contents out of. So we're going to identify those rooms. And the way we do that is we literally put tape on every room, so that as the packers are packing the contents in the dining room, they're going to write dining room on the box. So when we are unloading, we know that those are the dining room contents. We're also going to make sure that if there's any items that are for donation or for trash, we're going to make sure that those are tagged so that we don't mix them up again with the household items that we're going to be moving to the new space. We're going to confirm the address. We typically do that a couple of days in advance, but we also confirm the address when we're on site. So Lorin, are we moving from Smith Street and now we're going to Shenandoah Street? We want to make sure we understand what the address is. If we're moving in and out of an apartment building, We will confirm, or a condominium building, like we move out of some high rises on Wilshire Boulevard, we will confirm with the property management company that we're here and that we're using the appropriate elevator. So there's a list of kind of to-dos as we kind of pre-check and prepare to enter your property to begin moving your household items out.
Okay, great. And what should the clients be doing, what should the clients be doing while the movers are packing? I mean, do we just like stand there and, you know, feed them grapes, or what do you do?
Well, look, I mean, you can stand there and be cute and feed them grapes if you want. But what I encourage my clients to do is to go somewhere. Can you go on vacation? Can you go to the park for the day? I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, right? And the reality is, while we are doing our best to maintain 6 feet away, right? So we strategically try to put each packer in a different room. It's difficult to do that, right? Once we pack up items, we're going to move all those items to the truck. So sometimes we have somebody coming from the kitchen and from the living room at the same time. So they're going to be walking to the truck. We don't want you, your family members, the pets running through the house and potentially coming in contact with, you know, our team and making it more crowded. So the first thing I would say is, please, if you can, try to be off site, right? If, you know, on moving day. If that's not possible, and for some folks that's just not physically possible, quarantine yourself to a room. So decide that you're going to stay in the family room for the day, you're going to stay in the basement for the day. And then when it's time for us to get to that room, you're going to have to just shift to another room and really just isolate yourself while we continue packing up the home.
Okay. And what does unpacking mean? And can you talk a little bit about the unpacking process?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are under the misunderstanding that unpacking means putting things away. Unpacking in the moving industry is simply removing the contents out of the box and placing it on a flat surface, right? So if you moved a lot like me, and I've had a lot of corporate relocations, the first time it happened, I was completely disappointed and shocked that the unpacking ended with my contents literally just sitting on my kitchen island and on my sofa and on my bed. Because guess what? They weren't where they needed to be, which is, you know, on the hangers, you know, in my closet or in the cabinets or shelves. So unpacking is just removing it out of the boxes. What we do as part of our home setup, and, you know, it's a relocation, is we take those items that have been placed on that flat surface and we literally put them away where they belong. So we will, you know, we'll hang your clothes up, we can color coordinate them, we'll put all the things away in your kitchen, we can alphabetize your spices if you like. But the key takeaway from this is we will leave the home ready to receive you. So when you come home, all you have to do is drop your keys, turn on the TV, and grab that glass of wine or grapes, Lorin, and begin to enjoy yourself.
Now, do you do this for people who are not moving? Because I would love my spices alphabetized. I mean, that sounds amazing.
You know what? It's funny. We've been getting a lot of requests for organizing services.
Yeah.
So we are certainly starting to do that here in Ladera Heights. We've had a couple clients request our services to organize their garages, right? So a lot of folks that are home, we're either exercising in our garages or it's becoming an extension of the home. So maybe a playroom for some of the children. So we are absolutely supporting clients with organizing in their current space, right? Whether it's the garage or the home. And we'd love to come by and help you out, Erica.
Okay, and what about pets? Do you take care of transporting pets?
Yes, we do. Because pets are extensions of families, right? So we do. So we transport pets. With Doorsquad as a concierge, they get the VIP treatment. So we pick them up in a temperature controlled vehicle at your door. We will drive them or fly them, right? Depending on the length of travel and the distance to your new home. But we will transport them to your new address. So for example, I transported two dogs from, I think it was Bel Air to Nashville, Tennessee, or just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. And our partner, the pet carrier, actually stops every 4 hours to allow the pets to hydrate and to use the restroom. So it takes a couple days, but it's VIP, and we absolutely can transport your pets.
Okay, cool.
And what about plants? Do they receive a VIP transport as well, live plants?
Yeah. Well, the question of the year. So live plants, we can absolutely transport. They don't go in a temperature controlled vehicle, unfortunately, but we can transport them locally, right? When it comes to crossing state lines, we do not transport live plants cross state lines. And that is something that everybody needs to hear, because we all have a plant that we love. But unfortunately, for one, it takes up a lot of space in the truck, right? So a lot of movers just don't want to, put that plant on the truck because they can't stack anything on top of it. There's also the risk of claims, because as we all know, the probability of a plant surviving without water for 7 to 10 days that it takes to go from LA to New York is very low. So most movers will shy away from taking live plants cross state lines. But within the state of California, if we're going LA to San Francisco, LA to Santa Barbara, we can certainly transport your live plants.
Okay. And how do you ensure that valuables are protected?
We don't touch them. No. No. We carefully wrap your valuables. And the things that are really high value, we will crate them. So we have a third-party crating company that we work with. So some of your art, some of your Monets, some of your really precious items, we will crate them to ensure that they arrive safely at your destination. But really, we just invest in a lot of paper when we're wrapping those regular household items. We put a lot of paper around those items and place them safely and securely in the box, and they will arrive undamaged at the new home, at the new destination.
Okay. And what happens if there is damage to an owner's personal belongings?
We call Erica and we say, Erica, help. No, no. If there is damage, obviously you can file a claim, right? So in the industry, the standard claim rate or valuation is 60 cents per pound. So 0.60, 60 cents per pound of an item. An additional valuation is available if you choose. You can buy additional insurance essentially for some of those items. But if there's damage, what you will need to do is you'll fill out a claim form with your concierge or your moving partner. If it's a mover, you would fill it out directly with the mover. If you're going through a concierge like Doorsquad, we would handle that claim for you. We would take the claim form, fill it out. An adjuster would come out to inspect the damaged item, right? And all of damage needs to be noted at the time of delivery, that the adjuster would investigate and settle the claim accordingly.
Okay, when you say notified at the time of delivery, I mean, how do you have an unpack? I mean, what does that mean at the time of delivery?
Yeah, so we're unpacking all of your items, right? So that's at the delivery. So we open a box and we notice that there is, this cup, which was broken at one point. I glued it back because I'm practical. But, I could have filed a claim on this cup. Again, it would be at 60 cents per pound, right? Would be the valuation of this item. But when you're unpacking is when you find out that the items are damaged. And it's a great point that you bring up, Lorin, because most people say, hey, Jennifer, I will unpack it myself, right? Not most Doorsquad clients, but a lot of people who are moving want to pack themselves and they want to unpack themselves. And when you're unpacking yourself, you've got to make sure that you take a lot of pictures, right, as evidence that it was damaged when it was being removed out of the box. If not, you might get some pushback from the mover to say, hey, you know what, you damaged that yourself, right? It may not have been damaged during transit. So it's always best.
It's really important to have like the mover do that unpacking because for that reason alone.
Absolutely. The mover or if you have organizers that you're working with, it is extremely important. I encourage it. I mean, I can't tell people what to do, but I absolutely encourage it because they're responsible if they pack it and if they unpack it. And then again, you should be there or a representative of you, an extension of you, your concierge, to see that unpacking process.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, and what is the typical moving timeline?
So the moving timeline varies really based off of the size of the home. and if you're moving within the state or out of the state, right? So if you're moving, in LA and you're moving out of one apartment and going to another apartment, you're usually looking at 2 days, right? 1 day to pack, 1 day to load and unload. If you're moving out of a single family home, in LA, that can take anywhere from 3 to 5 days, because it can take us 2 days to pack, 1 day to move, another day to unload, unpack, right? And then set up the home. So anywhere from 3 to 5 days. If you're moving across state lines, like I've got a client right now that we're unloading in Northborough, Massachusetts, that process in itself is going to take us 10 days. Weather sometimes impacts that. But it took us, 3 days in a large home here out in Calabasas. Took us 3 days to pack up the home. We got to load the truck. We've got to drive the truck and all of the contents, across the country. And then we've got to unload. And it takes, some time to unload. And then we have to schedule the craters in. We had some high valuable items to uncrate those items like TVs and artwork. So it can easily take, 2 weeks to do that.
Okay. And what happens if someone needs to cancel their move? Are they penalized? Does it matter, how much time they give you in terms of that cancellation? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. I think that's a great question. So, one thing that most people don't know is that moving contracts are non-binding, right? So you can really cancel without financial penalty. Now, out of respect for any service provider, right, it would benefit you and them as a professional courtesy if you can give them as much notice as possible. Right? Calling them on the day of, some movers may choose to, hold your deposit if they collected one from you. But generally speaking, the contracts are non-binding.
And then just to piggyback on that, so you mentioned deposit. So can you talk a little bit about that? So a required or a deposit is required upfront, and then is payment due at the end?
Well, I would tell you, every mover has a different policy around payment collection, right? There's different standards. The movers that we partner with locally, we will collect a small deposit from our clients, and at the end of the move, we will ask for full payment. Why? Because the move locally is determined based off of the number of hours, right? And then the packing materials. Long distance moves, right? There's a different tariff that's used to calculate that. The cost of that move. So long distance movers will require you to pay up front, with the understanding that there may be additional charges or less charges. So you could be credited on the back end, or you could owe more if there are some reasons, like they need to transfer your load to a smaller truck, right? They may need a shuttle to get access to your driveway. So there are some reasons where the cost may be higher than originally estimated.
Okay, so we've all heard of moving nightmares. What mistakes do people make most typically when moving?
I think, well, I almost want to talk about one I just had, but I would say the biggest mistake that people make is trying to do it themselves. I mean, let's be honest. I don't think most of us understand, really all of the steps that are involved in moving, right? There's all these pre-move activities, right? You've got to make sure that you disconnect all the utilities. You got to schedule that out. You've got to put in a change of address, right? Got to notify your medical team that you may be moving address to a new address. You've got to change the address with the pharmacy, right? So I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to do it themselves and do it within a very short period of time for when they actually physically have to move. I think that one of the other kind of big watchouts is not really taking time to understand who you're going to partner with to move your most cherished items, which are the items in your home, right? So, you know, a lot of people will just Google, and the first name that pops up, they're going to allow them to come into their home and move their household items, not understanding what their safety record looks like, not understanding kind of what their driver longevity looks like, understanding what their rating looks like, the customer service ratios. All those things are very important. So from a overall planning perspective, I think those are some of the biggest mistakes that people make, and just underestimating really the amount of time that is involved in moving,
Right.
and the stress. I know we all, you know, at some point early in our lives, we all were very comfortable with throwing things in the back of our car or on a truck. But the older we get, those things get heavier, right? I mean, it's physically demanding, it's stressful, and there's a lot of steps involved in the actual relocation process that people who don't move every day just aren't familiar with.
Okay. Now, does Doorsquad help with any of those pre-move activities, like in terms of a full concierge service? So if someone wanted you to disconnect utilities or kind of help in those pre-move activities, or do you just focus on the move?
That is the $1 million question. Doorsquad does it all. So we will come in, we spend time with our clients to understand what their relocation priorities are, and then we will create a custom plan to achieve those goals, to include all the pre-move activities, the actual move, in the post-move, right? So we talked about setting up the home. We have some of our clients who are relocating from out of state that have children, and they want to understand what are the best private schools and how do I get my children into those schools. So we have education placement partners that we work with as well. We have people that want to sell their homes, right? They want to buy homes. And so we help them with that as well.
Got it. Thank you.
And this might be difficult to answer, but you can pick an example. What is the ballpark estimate someone can expect to pay for someone to come in and pack up their house? For you to, you know,
Yeah,
it's a 2,500 square foot house. Just throw that out there.
yeah, it's so difficult, Lorin. I tell you, and it's not that I'm trying to, you know, evade the
Right.
question, but the reality is my 2,500 square foot home may be, you know, less filled with items than your 2,500 square foot home. So the price varies. What I can share with everybody on this call today is that the average mover, the labor rates, which may help, right? So labor rates in Los Angeles are anywhere from $50 an hour to really $80 an hour per mover, right? So that may help you calculate. We've had packing costs range, again, depending on the size of the home, from $2,500 on up to $10,000. But that also includes the packing materials.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
And what kind of insurance can we expect a moving company to carry?
So moving companies will have the standard liability insurance. They will also have the premier moving companies will have the moving insurance. They have a certificate of insurance that all of your high-rise buildings are looking for as well. And you should ask for their certificate of insurance. You should also ask what their claims ratio is. And again, I think it's important to understand what their driver longevity and I would say their warehouse employee longevity looks like, because that's an indication of it's a good culture and people really feel good about, you know, working there. And also if they're a company that is following industry standards around insurance and other policies.
Okay, so just to elaborate on that, so you should ask for their certificate of insurance. What should we be looking for? Like, what is the standard amount or the minimum amount that you would say is reputable? And then the claims ratio, what would be a reasonable claims ratio? Give us some context.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. So the certificate of insurance should have a minimum of a $2 million policy. And again, it depends on which mover you're working with. I don't want to, you know, discount some of the really small kind of micro players in this space. But at a minimum, you should have a $2 million insurance policy. If not, they should not be moving your household items. Obviously, some of the larger, more established, more tenured moving companies are going to have policies, you know, $10 million and higher. So that at a minimum you should look for. From a claims ratio perspective, I would definitely not want to move with a moving partner who has a claims ratio higher than 10%. People, you're going to have claims, right? It's just inevitable. Whenever you move anything, there's a risk of it being damaged. But when you start looking at claims that are 30, 40%, I mean, you have to ask yourself, 1 in 3 homes, every time you move 1 in 3 homes, you're damaging something. That begs to say that there's a breakdown in the overall handling processes within that mover's business.
Okay. Okay. And one other quick thing, Shelley piped in and she wanted to just clarify that the organizing service is separate from the moving. Yeah?
Great question. So what is organizing really, right? So the first question that we ask our clients at Doorsquad is when they tell us, hey, Jennifer, we want to talk to you about your services and how you can help us move. That's what everybody starts with, move. The first thing I say is, help me understand your relocation priorities. And the second question is, are you taking everything in this home with you? Why is that important? Because if we're not packing up everything in this home with you, we're going to have to spend time decluttering, right? And organizing those items, which is not included in packing, right? Because that's the pre-move activity. Let's go through the home and understand and identify these items that you have not used in the last 10 years. You don't even know that pot is back there. You don't even know that jacket exists. Let's figure out how we're going to repurpose those items and or trash them. And then let's begin to pack up. So that's the decluttering and organizing piece. So thank you for that question, Shelley. That's separate from packing.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about moving overseas? Is that a service that you offer? Because we do have clients that have and are intending on moving overseas.
Yes. Doorsquad supports clients that are relocating across the seas. And what I think is important for us to know on this call is that every country has different standards, so kind of rules of engagement, if you will. We would partner, obviously, with, we have partners in different countries that would help us understand the specific requirements. What are the tariff guidelines? Should we transport this by air or by sea? And we do that for not only your household goods, but also for your automobiles. So for example, right now we're shipping a car that's going to leave out of Long Beach and head to Germany. And it's a longer process. There's a lot more to-dos involved, but you definitely want to make sure that you're partnering with a reputable relocation partner who has experience in relocating across seas.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone, I think that, does anyone else have, anyone on the call have anything that they want to ask? I'll just give you guys a minute to type in. Jennifer, it's really helpful. It's so much information.
I know it's a lot, and what I would encourage folks to do is, you're not going to remember all of this, right? We're available. I mean, you can book a consultation with us. It's free. If you just have questions, if you just want to be informed about the process, again, no obligation. I had a woman call me from Canada yesterday, just wanting to understand potentially how we could help her mom downsize from Toronto, and she wants to relocate her here in Brentwood. So we had a conversation about that. We're probably going to have like 4 or 5 more conversations before we even start to put together a plan. So feel free to do that if you have questions that come up later, whether it's about relocating yourself or maybe even your aging parents.
I already put your website in the chat, but everybody, it's very easy to remember. It's doorsquad.net. Jennifer has the plaque hanging behind her on the wall, one word, Doorsquad, and then .net. She's easy to find.
Yeah, and I'll make a change to that because we just recently bought the URL .com, so it's doorsquad.com now, so I'm happy about that.
Nice.
I also want to say to Erica and Lorin, I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm grateful for the time in front of your community. And I just want to say you all are incredible business professionals, incredible women, incredible moms, and I am so thankful to be a part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. We feel the same way about you. So thank you. Yeah. So are there any questions in the chat? I don't think so. No? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we hope to see all of you next month. If there's a topic that you would like us to cover, feel free to put it in the chat or send us an email. And we'll see you next month.
And we'll send a copy of this out and we'll post it. We post all of these on our YouTube channel. You can just go on YouTube and check out Ahead of the Curve Homes and you'll find all of these. But again, we love to hear from you, and any input, any requests, we're all ears. And thank you so much for joining.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.